call to order our work session, April 14th, 2021. Ms. Cottle, we have STD DIS program, Indiana Department of Health grant renewal.
Yes, and quite appropriate. This is STD Awareness Week, so what a perfect time, I guess, to have this grant renewal come before you. So this is probably the oldest grant that the department has had. It started in the 80s, and I think it is probably close, but I think it came before the tobacco settlement and local health maintenance. And so we have had it since the mid 80s or early 80s. So lots of changes. When I came to the department, this was the position that I had. We had one DIS for the 12 counties that this grant serves. We now have 2.5. So, and then we have the state DIS that we, provide space for. So we're very blessed to have this. They have made some changes, and it is now running on a grant cycle that's no longer on a calendar year. It is April through March. And so you will see a change in the fund number. This, because it was kind of originally, it goes back so far, it's been in the health fund. And if we were to lose this grant, there are some pieces of it that we would have to do anyway. So we're glad to have the grant to help us cover those duties in terms of response. But we are moving this to a separate fund. So it'd be 8180 so that we can track that, since the grant cycle will now be different. So the council also approved the budget last night, and we did the salary ordinance change and all of that. So the total is 170,250. There is a possibility we may get an additional kind of amendment to this, or there is a loss to care portion that we'll work with Positive Link on, using their care coordinators linked up with our DIS, so that we're not kind of looking for and kind of duplicating services in the end. So that's sort of a new piece of this. But asking you to approve it, and then we'll bring it back to you next week for ratification.
Great. Thank you so much. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
No, just glad we continue to get it.
Yes. Commissioner Giffens?
And I'm also glad we continue to get it, but it's also returning dollars that Monroe County residents pay into the state budget to bring it back here. So that's also pleasing.
Yeah. Great. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Just click on the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen. All right. Seeing none, looks like Mr. Cockrell's not here. Ms. Purdy, would you call the roll on this item, which is the Indiana Department of Health grant renewal for STD DIS program, $170,250?
Most certainly. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Let me ask, did we have a motion?
Oh, I thought we did. Sorry.
I'm not sure. I don't think we did.
Can you go, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the Indiana Department of Health grant renewal for STD DIS program, $170,250.
Second.
All right. So go ahead and if you would call the roll, please.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Giffens?
Yes.
Motion approved, 3-0.
Great.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and hear this again for ratification next week. Thank you. And we also have Ms. Rice to speak on the mitigation properties.
Yes, so thank you for moving this from your main agenda to your work session. This is truly a work session item because there's no formal decision to be made yet. I'm providing some background information from you, and I want to get some guidance from you so that I can give some information back to the state. Let me give a little summary of what's going on. And we also have on the call Jeff McKim, Tron and Wright Randolph, who's going to share some photos with us, and Kelly Whitmer, who might speak to these issues. So essentially, when the state of Indiana built the interstate, they had to purchase property to provide for indefinite green space. It's called mitigation property. They've acquired the property, and at some point they will declare it surplus and they will turn it over to somebody else to hold indefinitely. The property will have permanent deed restrictions that will prevent development. So the idea is when you build a road and you take out a lot of trees, you've got to replace those trees. So they have, there's a consultant that works with NDOT, and I've been in touch with him over the last several years. As you may recall, we already acquired one property from NDOT. It's down on Victor Pike.
Hey, Jerry. Hey,
So they,
I get put in the middle of that.
I don't know. It was so funny because I went out there and
Angie, hey, Angie.
She was telling me about what happened,
Angie.
and then she walks up.
Angie, you are up.
That's right, we got it.
Perfect. We're all like, ah. Okay, so here's the deal. There are several properties that NDOT is planning on turning over later this year. Not a definite time frame. They're saying anywhere from 2 to 6 months. They will send us a formal notice. And here's Tron with these handy maps for us. So there are several properties. It's Griffith, Kinser Pike. There's a property called Long Pond, Wisnan, Stout Valley, Stout Creek. There's a property, Richland Cemetery, that's about 140 acres, Clear Creek, and Evans Lane. So that's just a summary. And we can go through these one by one if you'd like. But essentially what I want from you today is approval to send an email to NDOT and their consultant, and to let them know that we are in fact interested in formally acquiring these properties once they become available. And then they will begin to kick off their process. And once they actually provide us with a notice of surplus property, we have 30 days from that point to formally respond. And then I will track that process and make sure that we do what we need to do to acquire these properties if you're interested. And so from there, I'd like to know what information you want, if you want to go through these like individually or how you want to handle it.
Mr. Enright Randolph, thank you for being here, Surveyor. If you could just maybe click through the properties for the public to see where they are, that would be great.
Absolutely. And let me know if you wanted, if I could just kind of quickly just run through it. So I'm going to share this link and you'll all have access to it so you can look at it on your own time. I'll do Wisnan real quick. You just click on that and it'll zoom in. Layers will automatically generate road layers. You can kind of zoom in and out. Over here, you can see a legend. Now everything might not be in the screen, but it's on there. So if you pan around, you'll start kind of going towards where the city is. So if you're looking at, if you're curious of what else is in that immediate area, it'll be very helpful. You just click off that again and you can kind of go through it. So I'll just go through the list of each one. Is that what you would like me to do?
Yeah, just briefly go through it just so the public can see it. And then if you'll share the link before our meeting ends, that would be great.
Okay, and then I just wanted to show you that there's a legend here so you can kind of turn on the aerial and stuff. And then as you can see in the legend, if you scroll down, it has steep slopes. That's the red. So it gives you a lot of information that I think would be helpful as you're determining how you want to move forward. So, and then we'll go Clear Creek. This one's kind of small. I did think it was kind of neat because it's somewhat next to our limestone greenway. I just wanted to show you that you could kind of start zooming in and you can see the limestone greenway. There's also parcel information. It'll just give you the owner's name and a legal description. We'll go to Evans Lane. This one's larger. When you look at the proposal, these are all the parcels. This isn't exactly the mitigation area like the right of way and stuff, but this gives you a good representation of what is being presented or offered. Again, just this is the Griffith property, then we get the Kinzer Pike, and then Long Pond.
And while I do want to say that there is another entity that's interested in Long Pond and also interested in acquiring the Richland Cemetery property. So we, by statute, as a governmental agency, would have priority over other entities that might, other local entities that might want the property. Obviously, the state and state educational institutions get first priority. But then when we get the notice as a governmental entity, we would stand in line before private entities or not-for-profits. I would like to know if you are interested. I can let NDOT know that we'd be happy to have the other not-for-profit agency, which holds property in green space, the land trust. I can let them know that if they don't acquire the property, we'd like to be able to do so. But if they're interested, we'll be happy to let that happen.
And you can see right here, you have a little Sycamore land trust right adjacent to that property. Then Stouts Creek, all three of these are kind of in a row, but they've separated each one. And then Wisnan, which is the last one, so they're just in alphabetic order. So that's all I have. If you think there could be any other information added to this map, just send me an email and I can update it. And I put the link in the chat, so feel free to click on that and just kind of scroll through. And I hope you enjoy using this. I think it's a step in the right direction outside of PDF maps. So.
Yeah, Tron, thank you for the time you spent putting that together. That's super helpful. I will say that Kelly and Jeff, who are both on this call, have both visited the Wisnan property, and they might want to share their thoughts about what they saw when they were out there.
Yeah, I've been out there too.
Yeah. May I, commissioners, may I show my screen for a moment? I won't take very long. I was just thinking in particular, the Wisnan property is attractive for a number of reasons. First of all, Commissioner Thomas, if you've been out there and visited, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a terrific hike. There actually is a pretty decent hike going up the hill and then up to the upper part of the property. But in particular, it's also accessible from other city and county amenities. So I put together this little map that kind of shows what's near it. We've got the Griffey Dam parking area. There's the city multi-use trail that goes to the dog park, the city dog park. That city dog park is on the county, infrequently used county gravel road called Stone Mill that goes all the way up to Wisnan, making it easily accessible. It's also very near in the other direction, the county's bicentennial bicycle lanes. And then to the north, it's also extremely close to a piece of property owned by a nature preserve owned by the Parks Foundation. It is separated from that property, the Parks Foundation property, by one other undeveloped strip of land owned by another property owner, but otherwise very close. And I just think this property in particular would make a very nice kind of undeveloped nature park that would be accessible to the public from and near other amenities without any additional development required. And Kelly, I don't know if you want to add any gloss to that.
I've been on the property 4 times and hiked it with our naturalist and also our park superintendent. The property is absolutely gorgeous. There is opportunity for ADA access near and around the pond, which could be just a phenomenal, if NDOT allows it, it could be a phenomenal asset for ADA access. The top part of the property probably would not be accessible due to the elevation, but if they allowed us to have hiking paths, it would be tremendously used. We would have to have a bush hog the path up in the top because there are some very nasty briars that makes it very not enjoyable to walk through. But I really recommend this property. It is a gem.
Yeah, typically, Ms. Rice, these mitigation properties, the ones that we've approved in the past have come with a do not touch, do not disturb, do not, do anything with these, no improvements can be made. Is this something that we can negotiate with NDOT?
You're absolutely right that there are deed restrictions that prevent development. And for a period of time, you're not even allowed to allow the public on the property. We can try to negotiate some carve outs. And I think that's what Kelly was talking about with the Wisnian property. I was told by NDOT and their representative that they're not inclined to approve any cutouts, but now would be the time to start those negotiations before they formalize the deeds and lock in those deed restrictions. So if that's something you're interested in us trying to work out, we can always ask and see what they'll do. And once we get the deeds, then whatever is carved out would not be subject to the restrictions. But obviously, if there's a deed restriction on the property, then there can be no paved trails put in place or no development of the property. The idea behind it, and they have to, anything we would ask, they would have to go back and talk to Fish and Wildlife and other agencies, because again, the intent with NDOT and the requirement that they had to get these properties in the first place was to set aside absolute dedicated green space that will always remain as green space.
Okay. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Just, it sounds pretty exciting. And I hope that we can successfully get a carve out.
Commissioner Giffens?
I agree about the carve outs because of the ADA accessibility, especially. Sounds like it's gorgeous property up at Wisman, though. I can't wait to go get a chance to go look at it.
Yeah, it is. So I guess I would say it sounds like we are all interested in at least exploring the idea of some sort of limitation on the deed restriction, if that's a good way to put it, to allow for access. This is certainly, I wouldn't consider this development, but it's certainly not undeveloped at that point, because then you have, parking and ADA accessibility and bush hogging and whatever else goes on. So it sounds like we're interested in at least exploring to see if they'd be amenable to this. I think about how close Marlin Elementary School is, and boy, this would be a really great place for field trips and for any of the schools in Monroe County, really. But I would hazard to guess, my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, that if this wasn't possible, we're still interested in the mitigation property just to hold it in perpetuity as green space for the community to keep Monroe County green as possible and undeveloped in some areas, so that we have its natural beauty around us. Would that be a clear directive? Are we good with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Is that Commissioner Giffens?
Oh, yes. I just, at some point we need to figure out if we want all of these properties, because some of them are really teeny. It would be hard to kind of monitor. And
we don't, the goal is you don't have to do anything. But I personally would say we should take everything that we're offered. And I think, I'm also fine with Sycamore Land Trust if they you know, if they want the properties, they could get them, but if they decline, then we should come back in line for them. There shouldn't really be anything for us to do with these properties once we acquire them. There isn't a, you know, a cost, but there's a real benefit to the community in general, just in having dedicated green space as part of our quality of life for our residents. And so you know, it's not, you know, we have one where we're interested in maybe making some sort of a very rough nature park facility for, but otherwise we're really would just be acquiring these to hold them as green space in the community's best interest in perpetuity.
Yeah, and let me point out as well, the last property, I wrote a letter to the Indiana Department of Administration, which is the agency that offered up the property. I wrote them a letter in March of 2019. We were able to then end up, I think it was on your agenda in July for getting the property. We did get that property donated as a gift by the state of Indiana. Just so you understand, the statute says that state property may be transferred to a political subdivision. The property may be transferred to the political subdivision as a gift or for the price as the state and the political subdivision determine. And it says that the state shall give preference to political subdivision requests for the property. So when I did this last time, I specifically stated in my letter that we would appreciate the opportunity to receive the properties as a gift. That's what I intend to do this time as well, and state that we'd like them to give the property to Monroe County, and in exchange, we will agree to hold it as green space. So what I'm inclined to do at this point is get back to NDOT and their consultant, let them know that we're interested in all the properties. We are willing to let Land Trust take those other two properties if they're interested, but if not, we'd be interested in those two as well, and that we would like to receive these as a gift. Now that will just be an email that I send to them. And once they go through their process, they have to get approval from the governor to declare it surplus. Once that's done and I get the official notice, then I will respond formally. I'll of course let you know. I will prepare a formal response for your signature to give back to them within that 30-day time period.
Sounds like a good plan. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I just want to say that it would be, to me, it's very exciting to think of a piece of property that is not going to be maintained in any way whatsoever. There are an awful lot of people who believe that nature needs to be managed by human beings, and in actual fact, that's interference. And so I really love this idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. There's nothing quite like truly pristine wilderness. We just don't have very much of it, and even a 3-acre bit of it is worth having, I think, for our community. So awesome. And thank you again, Mr. Enright Randolph, for the map and the link. We really appreciate it so much. If that link could be put on maybe your web page or something, just in case the community sees this and doesn't get to open the chat, I think that would be really useful. They might want to take a look at it and see what we're interested in doing, and hopefully we will be recipients of a gift, a gift of nature and green space. Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Great. Let's see if there's any other items for our agenda from anyone else.
I don't have anything.
Okay. All right. With that, anything else from my colleagues?
Nope.
Okay. With that, we are adjourned, and Commissioner Githens, have a great vacation.